Hello world, Patricia, O'Connor, and Frida, Reba, Darcy here, and tonight at Frida's place on the Bonsai balcony, what you see before you is our cork bark oak. And this year, this fall, like a few other, let me just waddle myself in here. Like a few other falls we've gone through before, I've been suffering through a great deal of dieback. Cork bark oaks are evergreens, but usually at the change of season, about now in the fall, we will see a big leaf flush out. You know, it'll exchange everything that it had going on early in the year. Starts falling off, and it starts to look kind of like it takes its fall colors, but that is also at the same time being rapidly replaced with new growth. And this year, like some years in the past, we had powdery mildew to contend with. And as that rolled on, I started trying to treat that with Neem. And I have been using Neem for a number of years, and with a lot of success on a couple of my trees. But there were a couple of times when I noticed in particular that I seemed to be having a hard time with my cork bark oak. And I would just spray the Neem to it, and we would start this little tussle back and forth, and I would see most of what I had grown that year fall by the wayside. So since then, I had learned a few things about bonsai in particular, and I learned a few things about cork bark oaks. And one thing I learned was how to prune them back so that they would vibricate out more. When I got this tree, I affectionately named it Log, and then I began to type in cork bark oak Quercus Suber frequently, just to see if anything had been added, to YouTube to try to read everything that anybody had ever done in reference to information about how to grow a cork bark oak. And what I kept hearing over and over again is they are easy. They are easy for beginners to grow, and they are resistant to drought. They are resistant to heat. And then over time, you see people with some beautiful, beautiful cork bark oaks. And I found myself wondering if they lived in climates that were better conducive to the branch structure that anybody of their envious branch structure, basically. And what I began to pick up on was a few things. One, that I was really underfeeding this tree. And by underfeeding this tree, I was also missing out on all the opportunities that giving this guy enough food would lend. I mean, we would be able to see a lot more leaf structure, a lot more bifurcation, a lot more structure quickly. Instead, I was seeing things grow out, and then everything between here and here would die off. And so I would be left with these long branches with long nodes. And so what I learned was to start pruning back the tips on these guys, which releases the hormones in them and tells the other branches that that the apical dominant part of the tree is yet to be decided. That's still into play, and tells the rest of the tree that it has all these reasons to put out more shoots, more buds, more potential leaders. And that's how you just go back through and start clipping those off, and maybe you'll get branched out from there. And also about the same time, I was also wiring quite a bit on this tree, and I found that it was hard to leave a wire on long enough to get it to hold a shape. while at the same time wasn't doing a massive amount of worm marks before it was ever ready to hold a shape. Also, these branches are not a little like what I've been seeing with my black pine. You can break them and you'll think you got away with it. You can get away with cracking them sometimes. Sometimes you don't. You put a little crack in one and you don't mess with it. You think, oh, it's cool, it's still there. It didn't go half, you know, it didn't break halfway through. But then a month later, the branch dies off, you know, dries up and is gone. It just basically didn't make another pathway to continue. So what I've learned about cork bark oaks is that they are, if you prune them back, you can get them to vigorously grow more. If you feed them, you will be feeding the ability to do that. And before, I had also wondered, the first time I saw this tree, I almost wanted to buy a pot with it, because as an amateur I looked at this and I said, it is underpotted. It was just an observation. These proportions to this proportion told me the tree was underpotted. I love this pot, actually. I love it more now than when I first got the tree. That's one thing. And two, no, I don't think the tree is underpotted. Somebody once told me Japanese bonsai tends to underpot, Chinese bonsai tends to overpot. I think that's what I heard. At any rate, I was probably in the camp that was thinking that this was underpotted. And I no longer feel that, and I have had a few of y'all kind of echo my concerns with that. What I think about what's going on down here is it's probably in the right size pot, and I base that on the amount of vigor and even with the dieback that we had this year. This is painful. This was some really nice structure that had taken me 2 years to build, and there's just enough leaves on enough of these things to tell me that I shouldn't go too crazy cutting that all off just yet. But we'll give it the rest of the fall and see whether or not this stuff buds back out, or whether or not see a little leaf here, a little leaf here. Every little branch that I think was just so pretty is down to one leaf on it, and you know, this time tomorrow those might not be here. But at the same time, the tree's doing what it always did all of those other times too, which is put out branches and limbs and leaves and just foliage, just in abundance. And after probably a little over a year now of being fed right, I would say more so. The tree is more vigorous, and the amount of dieback I had was due to powdery mildew. And why does it always get powdery mildew? Well, one, it's been exploding with foliage, and my cutting it back and getting more branches means I've got more leaves, and I'm watering the tree a lot. So this is always either too dry because I just turned around and noticed it's time to water, but I'm always watering it. So there's a lot of humidity here, and it's going up in here, and I don't have any fans to really move that air, that moisture along. So there's probably, it's just like a list of excuses to why I might see powdery mildew. But I do know that I do see this on this tree especially, and it's caused me dieback on things that I had taken the whole season to grow. And last year was a really good year for building this tree structure, and this year I'm watching us take a back seat on all of that. And also, with all of that going on, I was a little bit reluctant to go pruning all of this other stuff because I don't know how much of this I'm keeping. So right now, I would say, and some of y'all have even, a couple of people have remarked that they were wondering about the general health of the tree. I'm not. The tree is in an energy positive state. I know it's in an energy positive state by the amount of flushing out and building of new branches and limbs and leaves and all that stuff. It's doing that like nobody's business. It's doing that as a direct response to the amount of fertilizer or the amount of plant food that I've been giving it in the way of biogold. I've been constantly feeding it now for a year, and this is what that looks like. Now, a lot of the stuff that I haven't pruned back is already longer, bigger, and thicker than the 2-year-old stuff before it. So that's a whole new list of problems. But instead of just whacking it all down to nothing without seeing what we're going to be able to keep at the end of the year, I'm going to do something, I think, a little bit different tonight. I want to keep all the energy that the tree has made, so rather than take it on a branch by branch by branch up, you know, and kind of go through, and what I've been doing a lot of times is directional pruning. Oaks lend themselves well to that. Every leaf has a bud site on it. So if I want a leaf, if I want a branch this way, I'll let this be the leaf that's facing that way. Because at that way, if I cut it off right here, that'll be the last bud, the terminal bud. That will make a branch. So that would send a branch off over you. And in that way, you can clip and grow a tree. And with the little bit of trouble that I was having with wiring, I've known quite a few people who wire the branches on their oaks, and I'm certainly not bashful about wire at any stage. I'm not even bashful about leaving wire marks and stuff. And I especially wasn't totally worried about this because the point is the tree makes bark anyway. I wasn't 100% sure, but for what wire marks might end up being our friend. But at the end of the day, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this back into a shape a little bit and let it continue to run for the rest of the fall and see what that gets us. And the exception to that is what I see down here. What I see down here is a train wreck that I need to make some decisions on because this was a new structure that I wanted down here. I don't see it flushing out. Yeah, I do. I see one just coming out right here underneath. We do have options if this doesn't work out. That's good. That's good. I'll show that better when I get a chance to. But I'll probably try to sculpt this a little bit, and by sculpt it I mean still just clip and grow. And the same as this. And when I get back up into here, I'm just going to try to clip it all back to a shape for the most part. There'll be some strategic cuts in there, but basically I'm just going to start here and see. Okay, let's cut. Now this is also, I had just gotten to the point to where I was watching some of my cohorts do this, and quite a few of them pinch, and they were doing shows on pinching and pinching the ends, and they would be pinching the ends on new growth. I believe the beauty to that is they would be pinching the ends of the new growth before they ever got as long as what I'm seeing here now. So that slows them down. That causes them to vibricate out in more places because it serves the same purpose as cutting them, just pinching the ends, right? But the point is they wouldn't, this is the type of growth that they would pinch back, something this small, bam, right? But not when it's all the way out here. They would have done that when it was back here, and then had I done that when this was back here, I might see more buds coming out here now. Now I don't see much, and let's see. There's a few little buds on here. We're just going to cut it back to here for now. I know this limb is still alive. I don't know. I may have just killed its chances. But there is a terminal bud there, but there's no leaves or anything else to that I probably just killed that, but it's not really, being out here wasn't going to help us, or however far off that went. kind of the same here. That's a shame. I kind of liked all of this. True, I could do something here, I could do something here, but that would just promote all of this other stuff to die back. So, all right, here's what we're gonna do here. Just clean it up. It's not a total wash though. There's buds there, there's a bud there. Okay. Now, let that go? No, let's just get rid of that. There's a lot of buds here in this little, there's a lot of buds right here in this little branch, and just that little clip was green. So that'll either die back or it'll put out some goodies. Otherwise, I'm kind of going through here and trying to clean up these branches. Some of them have already lost their leaves, but only in the last couple of days, and they might have been in the process of flushing out stuff at the same time. So there's not a whole lot of point in going totally cray-cray that I could see. Also, sometimes when you see something and you cut it back a little further than you want, it's not a bad idea. Maybe you're trying to get a little too rhythmic. Alright, leave that alone. It's not too long to anything else. Straight up. So I flattened that back out, except for this piece that in silhouette I don't like. Anal retentive. That would be a good name. Anal retentive bonsai. We're going to take little Ziploc baggies and we're going to label them for all of our clippings for the trash. That would be like anal retentive bonsai. Now, part of the deal with the tree that I was having this year was my tried and true method might work well for some of my other trees, but Neem was just really, really, really messing this up. So for all the reasons stated earlier, I would get powdery mildew on this tree. So what would I do? I would pick up the bottle that I had put an okay amount of Neem in, you know, maybe a few months before, and then maybe use most of it. So in the amount of time that it was sitting there waiting for Pat to come along, I just grab the bottle, shake it up, and go to town on probably some stuff that may have even evaporated down to a pretty dense cocktail. And I say this because I was noticing that once the water was gone from the Neem, that I had an enormous amount of oil left on all the foliage. And that was about the time that one of our viewers had said that they had read that there was some problem with Neem and these guys, and that it blocks their pores. And that is also kind of what I was seeing too. Everything that had a real shiny, slick treatment of oil on it, one, it kind of treated that like being at the beach in August in a sweater, you know, that just kind of insulated all that heat. And probably the reflection of it as well had a similar effect. See, there was a million things that could be done with that, and we're just gonna do that and be done with it. Now, if this doesn't come back, if this doesn't come back and this doesn't come back, I've got a new start here below it. Also here, that's too low. I'm letting that grow because that'll help us fatten up the base. I'll let little stuff like that go for a little while now because you'd be surprised how much girth you can get out of that area if you just let that run for a minute. So anyway, back to the neem. I have, I'm swearing off the neem. I'm over the oil. Everything that has oil on it cooks. Whether it has powdery, if it saved it from powdery mildew, it turned right around and cooked it by being all neemed up. So I don't really see that as much as the trade-off. And there may be other trees that I have and other plants. It's not like I just discovered this stuff the other day. I used to use a host of remedies to get rid of PM. And I know I've said this a few times, but where we are, especially where we are in California, a whole lot of things grow real well. I mean, grow real easy here. A lot of really cool plants, a lot of really cool trees, but also every predator. I have with belligerents described powdery mildew as the state bird more than once. It covers every hedge here at the complex. If they're not treating it for powdery mildew, it is covered in powdery mildew. And whereas oaks always have these waxy, shiny looking leaves, one thing they are not is oily. So when they get powdery mildew, it sucks the life out of them fairly quickly. And I thought the waxy, shiny part of the neem was especially helpful. But just doing that, I can barely smell it now because it's been on here for a month. But my fingers are still oily from the neem that I put on that. And everything that I put it on is gone. Everything I put it on. It probably got rid of the powdery mildew on contact and then turned right around and killed it by being neem on all these leaves, and they didn't appreciate it. So that's what we learn there. You know, that's what we get there. I'm still doing directional pruning. I want a branch coming that way, so I left that leaf. She could probably go back to my better scissors. I'm allowing some stuff that's a little straight up to hang in there for a minute. It's keeping the energy flowing. It's also important to do that, you know. So instead of continuing to hose everything down with neem at the first hint of powdery mildew, I'm going to go back to something that I used to do a long time ago, and that was, well, there are several things I could have gone with, and some of them were recommended by you guys. Somebody mentioned the milk. Back when I was first looking at the milk recipes, they were talking about, I think, milk and Tabasco, which made for orange-looking milk. But they also said, talk about gross, right? And they also said it was like 2%. And sometimes we would mix this with Dawn dishwashing soap. That would make a cocktail that would do powdery mildew, which is the milk will take care of that. It has some property that PM does not like. And then Tabasco sauce would take out anything with eyes, basically. So that's what the good of that is. And I don't know really what the Dawn did. I guess it was in case the Exxon Valdez came through. We were covered. Never forget. So what other things I used at the time I didn't like, and people would say, and it doesn't smell sour. Well, actually, kind of it does a little, because for one thing, you can use sour milk just as good as any. If you have a bunch of kids at home and you're going through a lot of milk, every once in a while, they slow down on your supply for a minute, and you end up with some sour milk. Throw that in the freezer, and you could use that as your neem treatment. It doesn't matter if it's sour. And if you're putting sour milk on your bonsai trees, they will probably smell like sour milk. Here's what I noticed on my perennials whenever I was exploring with 2% milk. My grow room smelled like milk breath. Not sour milk, like honest to God milk breath. And I found that a little bit more offensive, frankly, than sour milk. I don't know, maybe another version of myself and I would have found that adorable, but no, not so much. So I'm not going to go with the milk. I am going to go with hydrogen peroxide. Now, I had an issue with hydrogen peroxide back in the day. Might have been me. I'm willing to let bygones be bygones and say that it would be like me to take a good rocket fuel like hydrogen peroxide and screw that up. But here's what I mean. What hydrogen peroxide does is it wrecks the pH for powdery mildew. Totally messes it up. Totally takes their neighborhood, and as far as they're concerned, it just wrecks everything. Well, okay. All right. That's okay. But the dosage, the dosage seemed a little weird to me. It always seemed a little off. And you would always hear the same dosage. They would say, a capful to 24 ounces. A capful. It's like 2 beers or 2 Cokes. A capful to that much. That seemed weak to me. Plus, the recipe, I don't recall ever seeing what percentage of peroxide that is. And if you go and look, I mean, you see all different numbers on the percentages of peroxide. I mean, they never said start off with X number of peroxide. They just said a cupful to 2 beers. So maybe me, especially the me I used to be, would go a little bit's good. More's better. So that's probably why I had a bad opinion of hydrogen peroxide to get rid of powdery mildew. I will say this, it absolutely worked. It absolutely worked. So what was the problem? The problem was it would dry and look like powdery mildew. So it was curing the powdery mildew, and while at the same time looking just like the stuff. So it'd make you want to just hose it down again, which would increase the amount that it still would look like. It was like a vicious cycle. And that was probably because I was bumping up that capful. Or I was going, well, this is only blah blah percent peroxide, surely it would be, so it would leave a white stain on the leaves. And powdery mildew is at first looks like a water stain on your leaves, but it's not. It's what's killing your leaf. It can even start off as a water stain, and you know the spores can get caught in that drop of water there on your leaves, and then they're just sitting there planted. They're just sitting there all planted whenever wow, yeah, go back. And they're planted whenever that drop of water finally dries away. That little ring, that little water ring, that table ring looking spot on your leaves already had powdery mildew spores in it, and as soon as that water goes, they take that little bit of water and then they start sucking it right out of your leaves because they've used that water to help them bond to your stuff. You don't need things bonding to your stuff. Right, Frida? Yeah. So what I'm just gonna do is all of these grandiose ideas the tree had about all the stuff that it was going to put out this year, I'm actually being a little less selective with this. I'm not cutting as much by design as normal. I'm gonna wait and have another look at that. I'm not cutting as much by design as much as I'm doing a little bit of directional pruning, and I'm letting some of it go because it's going to help us fill out this canopy some. This canopy did need some help, and the thing is certainly not shy about producing shoots right now. So we have every reason to leave more maybe a little longer if we can, but if it's just going to send out some little spike with nothing much happening past that, that doesn't necessarily help anybody, and we'll cut that off early. It's a perfect example. This branch had wrapped itself all up in here, and even after I'd sprayed, it's covered in powdery mildew, but it made this little humidity dome in there. All right, now back to the treatment. So what I am really doing now is I am really doing my spray bottle to 24 ounces of water to a capful. I will try to make a point to get the good stuff when it comes to the hydrogen peroxide. But other than that, I'm not going to go too crazy about it. We're still going to keep those those proportions, and twice a day for 2 weeks until all of our PM is gone. Once a week after that to keep that pesky stuff away, and that's kind of what I'm looking at. You can see it just ravaged. It looked like the locusts came through here, but all that stuff isn't dead. Even the stuff that I'm cutting, I'm still seeing green tips to it, and I'm going like, well, you know, some of that stuff probably had leaves on it yesterday. You probably dropped a dozen leaves since today. Oh, by the way, today's the first day of the new treatment. Excuse me. Yeah, today's the first day of the new treatment, and it is that dried fairly quickly, and it's in a mist bottle, and I'm doing that twice a day, as already stated, I believe. This is allowing more air to come through. This is going to encourage more back budding. This is going to lower the humidity that, see this, it dropped all of its leaves here closed and is growing this stuff way out here on the end. Back bud or be gone. But right now, it's also a good time, since we did lose some stuff, it's a good time to leave some of it a little long, because it's in the process of putting back. we can let it put back. This is just in time to turn that into cool ramification. There's a few winning moments in here. Maybe not the most ever, but we still are making progress as far as building structure on this tree. And we are also encouraging this stuff. We are also encouraging this stuff to leaf out more. And I also think that having done my 2% peroxide earlier today, not my 2%, but my cap full, 24-ounce ratio of hydrogen peroxide, just watching that take away the powdery mildew that I was already seeing form on there, reminded me of how good of a method that was. I'd never gotten bad results with it. I just would see it on other more vulnerable type of leaves. I think I would see that in broader abundance, and I would see more residue from the hydrogen peroxide because I was probably running it a little strong. All right. This is as big as the last year's foundation work. So just gonna try to maintain. No, I don't know. What's good here? What is good here? This thing. What does this do for me? Back bud. See, I want stuff here and I want stuff out here to go out. So we will encourage, having done that, we'll just cut this back. You know, we're still moving forward with our stuff. We've still got new things coming through. There's still stuff alive there. We'll see what it does, and we have backups in case it doesn't want to continue to play. You know, that same thing that oaks do. One trance. Everybody's gonna get one good shot at this. And if you don't want it, you don't have to take it. But we're not settling with this. I don't want a big stick with a few tips. I think we can do better. So if cutting these tips causes these branches that I just recently lost leaves on, if that causes them to back bud and flush back out, that would be all, you know, all the good things right there. I would be really happy about that. But if it doesn't, I'll just start cutting this stuff back and we'll start over. We know how. And I think I've just learned a valuable lesson. So also, I'm getting that pad structure to look really good. It would be sweet if that would flush back out. I'm gonna leave some stuff on here just to keep stuff moving along. But not a lot. I don't want what the tree thought was our next apical dominant branch to be our next apical dominant branch. I want the energy to still keep going to encourage stuff to come out here. That's why this is here and that's why this is here. Otherwise, those wouldn't be the ones I would have kept, all things considered. Almost through. The tree has kind of hurtful to see it, kind of hurtful to see that much PM, but it wasn't all PM. It was also coming back in between my last dose of the of Neem and today. I was already seeing it. Now, among my new treatment, and I even said this before too, you have to spray this top side of leaf and bottom side of leaf. It starts on the bottom side of the leaf. So if you're not getting that, if you're not spraying from the bottom up and then spraying from the top down, you're not getting it. It's still killing the leaf even if you take off the stuff on the top you're looking at. It will live no longer by just being bottom infected than it is to have, you know, infection coming out of the. I see little green specks on a lot of these. So there's reason. We'll get to keep some of this and some of it we won't, but we'll live and die either way. So when it comes to these guys, I haven't seen a lot of videos. I have seen a lot of other people who have cork bark oaks that look like logs. I've even seen one or two more where they talked about growing the proverbial fireplace log. That's A, brutal, and B, I've said it myself. So both things. For me, the answer to that was, except for present problems included, the difference for that was in pruning back the new growth steadily so that it kept flushing out and kept losing those auxins, or kept this hormone allocation that would then cause other parts to flush out stuff and continue their push and their growth. And feeding, which is very much what we're going to continue. Shame about the Neem. I had, that was my put it in a bottle, shake it and forget it solution for a couple of years. I had seen it work okay on some of my other trees. I had wondered about some, and I had frankly wondered a little bit last year if I was causing problems. It was a matter of timing too. Me noticing something at the same time somebody said something, kind of put the two together. It's like, wow, you know, I should have listened. Well, I did listen. That's how I knew I had heard it. But yeah, also it was. So that's kind of where we are. That's kind of where we're at. A little prune back, a little dieback. We can start over from here. There's still a lot of stuff there, and there's still a lot of reason for this tree to just flush right back out. But we're leaning right into that. So here's what we're doing right now. It's inside because I set up this inside so I could do this video. Back out it goes. And we will give it's twice a day. Neem treatment of peroxide, and I've got right now the peroxide that I've had at the bottom of the cabinet in the bathroom for a year. But we'll get good fresh peroxide and make sure that we're topped off with the good stuff, and our strength is something that is a known quantity. That way we at least know what we're doing, and then we'll measure our results against that. I know, having done one treatment today, I'm already more happy with it the way it looked 15 minutes after its treatment, because before that I was already seeing the powdery mildew come back. You know how I talked about the high heat that we had. Right after that we did get rain. Not much, 15-minute showers, midday. Exactly the thing that helps promote good old PM all over again. So yeah, that's what that was, and that's what it got. It got the powdery mildew coming back. So today's first treatment, and I already knew that I was happier with those results within a half hour of our being done with it. I think the tree will be fine. I think even if I have to start over, I'll be fine. What I've learned this past year about the management of energy in this tree has definitely got us, or got this tree in an energy positive state. So I don't really even look at that amount of, just a little bit over what it would have normally been flushing out anyway. And with that little bit of prune back there, I totally suspect it to go a little bonkers, because we're not about to see some frozen temperatures, and this is an evergreen. It wasn't really going to stop anyway. Not here. They do go dormant in other places, but they still kind of stay green, and they don't go completely dormant. But frankly, here, normally they just don't go dormant here. Like and subscribe if you guys haven't already. Our next drop will be probably something out on the balcony. We'll probably go out there in the sunshine and do something again. That's a little prune back on our cork bark oak. I'm pretty happy with where we stopped. I would like to, I'm greedy when it comes to this tree and what it's doing. I think we were on our way to making a lot of really cool looking structure from this guy. I'm gonna have this stick. Why would I have a stick going straight up now? But that's nothing that we can't put back. That's nothing we can't put back in short order, especially since we apply the tricks we've used, and those not really heavy tricks, just pruning our tips, upping our watering, which also increases the amount of humidity, which also increases the amount of foliage, which also increases the amount of humidity, and increasing our feeding. So yeah, like and subscribe if you guys haven't already. Our next post will be tomorrow out on our balcony when we do something sunny and nice. And I appreciate you, and Frida appreciates you, and thank you so much for watching.